a couple weeks into this renovation. We budgeted at $82,000. Stay tuned to figure out how much we went over budget.
This is the first renovation we're tackling under GTW development, and it's been interesting to see in the first 4 to 6 weeks working together how the roles have shaken out. So Chip is handling all of the subcontractor coordination. He's on site every day. He's even been doing some of the demo. He's taken down the deck, he's taken out walls, he's taken out drywall, he's ripped up floors, he's taken out toilets. I mean, he's done it all. And we're on our 4th load in that dumpster. So there was a lot to demo. And what I'm doing kind of behind the computer is coming up with a system that we can replicate when we bring investors into the fold in upcoming renovation projects. So we've worked through a line item by line item budget, and we've created groups of expenditures. And what we're doing is comparing what we forecasted at the beginning of the process versus where we're at now on the total cost. And so we're able to see where we missed line items. Obviously there's some big ones we'll talk about at the office, but it's worked really well for you to interface with the subcontractors directly, and then me to handle some of the payments, and then also just keeping you on track with what the budget looks like.
Sure, yeah, and I think it's been valuable also. Prior to us closing on the property, we came up with about a 10 to 12 week by week schedule of what was going to take place, and we've been able to adhere to that. And then, as we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about at the office, is we have draw periods for the investors in this deal, so we know exactly when a job can and needs to be completed and when our draw period is. So it's been really efficient. That's something that we can easily replicate the next property that we acquire, and when we bring on additional investors, we're able to show them what we've done in the past.
For sure. So we're in the main living room. Last time you guys checked out our video, we had a wall right here. So you just take a look at what we're seeing here now, and then Chip, if you want to kind of talk the kitchen and what your plans are for there.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, whoa, watch out, be careful there. There was a wall, removed that, opened up this living room. We contemplated removing this wall right here, a portion of it, and scaling it back. We elected not to. This is a load-bearing wall. And I think it gives some privacy to the dining kitchen area compared to the living area. So walking in here, from the last video, there was another wall right here separating the dining from the kitchen. We removed that. That was not load-bearing. We're gonna open this up. We're gonna have a dual cabinet set up here with an overhanging quartz countertop. But they're in here right now repairing all the drywall. If you recall from the last one, we had the old school drop-down boxes, which the cabinets basically were fed into. We removed that, which is gonna be a nice look once we have the new cabinets in. They repaired all of that, taking care of some repairs in the garage right now, but you can start to feel how more open the space is with those 2 walls removed.
Yeah, and you've got the HVAC ducts. We're completely renovated the HVAC system, all new ductwork, new furnace, new intake, everything's new there. And then you see where the recessed lighting is going in for electrical. Once those things start to take shape, you really get a picture of what this space is gonna look like, and I think it's gonna be perfect. I mean, with the open from, it's not a completely open concept from living to kitchen and dining, but from kitchen to dining, it's completely open.
Yeah.
You're really gonna get that modern feel when you're in this space, because you're gonna be able to sit at the bar and eat, or have your table set up over here. And I mean, you're right next to the living room.
Exactly. I mean, for the time frame and for this neighborhood, an open concept would have been nice, but I think this is more in line with this neighborhood, build year, etc. So excited to see that. Torres Painting is in here this week. They are taking care of all the drywall patchwork. They will be following that up with texturing. And then early next week, we're gonna have the LVP go in.
Can't wait to see that.
It's gonna be nice.
In your opinion, when does the renovation turn the corner the most, or it starts looking finished? Like what part of the process really
for me,
gives you that feel?
For me, it's this. I think that when the patchwork and texturing start to take place, you're officially done with demo in most aspects, so you're not having to do all the rough-in work. At that point, on your electrical, plumbing, all that should be done. So now you're starting the process of putting it back together. And at that point, for me, that's the most enjoyable because you start to kind of see all the selections that you made the previous month come into the home itself.
Definitely. I think we've got a good set on that. So we're gonna head back to the office and share with you guys what it looks like mid-renovation. I think from my perspective, a lot of the content that's out there just shows how bad it looked and then how amazing it looked.
Yeah.
And there's not as much on the middle. And there's not a whole lot that shares the amount of cash that must be poured in.
Yep.
Now, there's more aggressive ways we could handle that. We could be looking at a line of credit, credit cards, you name it. But the way that we're approaching it is with true cash in, is what I call it, just a cash in renovation. So we don't have the cash to buy something in cash, we don't buy it. And that leads to a few months of feeling like you're shoveling money into the fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is nice to see it come through and start to take shape. And then also when you've got 3 partners, it takes the pain away quite a bit.
It does.
For the cost. We're in the office here in Bentonville talking about the Loxley Avenue, Fayetteville, Arkansas flip. So I want to start out with what we believe to be the after repair value. So we are keying in on $385. Price per foot, we'd have to check on that. I know it's upwards of $200 per square foot. But there's a couple comps that we're eyeing. So throughout the flip process, it's easy to get excited when you see something that you think is a comparable home that was listed, and there was one listed the other day at $399, so we're closely monitoring that. But Chip, what do you think of the $385 price point, even in the current interest rate environment?
Well, I think it's justifiable for a couple reasons. Number one, the house will be completely brand new once we're done with it. The only thing that we're not changing is the framing of the house, but we're replacing everything else. So you're basically looking at a new build once this is done. Another thing I like about this property is you're on a corner lot in one of the most desired areas of East Fayetteville. So I think that is a huge advantage as well. We also have a side entry garage off the main road. A lot of the houses that are on that main road, they don't have that side entry garage. It's typically in the front of the home. So there are some variations about this build that I think are interesting. And then looking at Fayetteville itself in the Northwest Arkansas Metro, $385 for a 1,700 square foot completely remodeled home near campus, I think is a great deal. Just keep in mind, real estate's a long-term game. If you're thinking about next year, you may not get the return you're looking for. If you're looking 5 to 7 years down the road, and we're projected to be 1 million people by 2040, that price point will seem like a steal here in a decade. So overall, I think it's in line with the comps, and I think it's in line with what the projected value of Fayetteville will be long-term.
I agree. So moving on to rehab budget, planned profit, and then the max allowable offer on the property. So we initially budgeted about $82,000. We'll break it down a little bit further into this segment with why we are now looking at $96,000 to $98,000. But we have our rehab budget planned high for this analysis at $100,000, and the goal is to make an $80,000 profit. So the max allowable offer with a $100,000 budget to make an $80,000 profit at an after repair value of $385,000 was $183,250.
Yep.
We were able to secure the property for $185,000. So depending on where we end up around that $100,000 mark, we anticipate making about an $80,000 profit. Some other things that you want to consider when you are buying a flip of costs that some people overlook, and it can really bite you, is not only do you have your purchase price that you're paying, you have your total rehab costs, which is the amount that we're paying all the subcontractors to reconstruct the home. And then we have holding costs. So we budgeted a conservative 4 months of holding costs from the closing date, which was mid to late January.
Yep.
So that put us in February, March, April, May, which I think is fair, 120 days. We budgeted $1,500 for holding costs. That's flipping on some of the utilities that are necessary, paying the security deposits on the utilities, which are hard to get waived, and then your holding cost for the mortgage. So you're gonna have that factored in. Then on the back end, when you think about selling the property, even at $385,000, you're gonna have about 1% of the sale price in seller's closing costs. And then we anticipate paying a buyer's agent around $10,000 to bring a buyer to the property. Now, we're also licensed real estate agents. We do a good job separating the two, but we will be listing the property. So there is the off chance that we are able to bring a buyer since dual agency is allowed in Arkansas. We will see if that happens. That would immediately increase our profit from 80 to about 90. But we don't want to budget for that because the chances are fairly slim that that occurs. So those are the ways we're thinking about the deal. Looking at the return on investment, the immediate return on investment is about 28% and the annualized is about 84%, all things considered. So I would say this is a home run for a flip.
Absolutely.
Do we expect to see any other deals like this coming our way this year, or are we gonna have to pare it back to a more of a double or triple type base hit flip?
I think realistically speaking, aiming for that $30,000 to $40,000 profit per flip is more reasonable. That's factoring in your purchase price, unless you're getting a complete steal at the beginning, which I would consider that the initial contract. It's gonna be difficult in this market environment, but with the shift in the market environment itself, we're trending more towards a balanced market, away from the seller's market we've been in for the past 2 years.
Yep.
I would say that more flip opportunities will be present, considering that these buyers and sellers understand that interest rates are at 7%. So I think in terms of best environment for a flip potential and acquiring one, this is one of the best times that we can act upon. So great situation here. I would consider this a home run, no doubt. But keep in mind, when you're getting a purchase price this good in a market this good, there's a reason for that. And we're having to pour in a ton of cash to get this back to where it needs to be. So that's gonna be our segue into talking a little bit about the budget for this property. Drake alluded to it. We budgeted $82,000 at the beginning of the process. One thing I do wanna call out before we really dive in is one thing we failed to do that caused us to go severely over budget is we forgot to line item an HVAC system. Guys, we understood that it needed an HVAC system. We didn't put it in our analysis and we weren't factoring that into our purchase price. I don't think the purchase price would have changed even if we did, but we could have better set our expectations for our return. And that HVAC included a new exterior HVAC, a furnace on the interior. We had to replace all the ductwork. We had to replace all the boots from the old circle like cylinder type boots to the new squared vent boots. And all that came into $14,000. So that immediately puts us at $96,000, which doesn't afford us a lot of opportunity for wiggle room on the other line items.
Right. Yeah, but we've done a good job. So we've maintained a total budget right now of $98.4K. So I think we'll probably end up at 100,000.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a few things. We were out there today, noticed one of the water spouts when a wall's removed. We got to move that. We probably got to pay a plumber. We talked about more recessed lighting in the bathroom. Got to pay a plumber. All right, not a plumber, an electrician to do that. So those are things that are going to start adding up to put us around 100,000. But I want to talk about how we can go back and forth. So we said at the property, if you watch the beginning of the video, Chip is managing the subcontractors on site. I'm behind the laptop, so you can hear my phone's dinging right now, managing the payments, managing anything that Chip needs help with, any questions he has about an outside opinion on what we should do based off of our combined real estate knowledge. So looking at this, so far we've paid $40,300 to contractors. That's about currently 41% of our total budget. So far within the flip, we've paid for doors and trim, we've paid for cabinets, we've paid for tile work, we've paid for appliances, plumbing, dumpsters on the site, the full HVAC that Chip talked about. We've paid for an inspection. We've paid for some help with demo from a wall. We've paid for trees to be cut. And then there's another 60% that's gonna go out the door. So the best way to manage this is, like we said, we have one other partner, Mason, who joined us in these two flips. The purchase price was $300,000, the loan amount's $255,000. So out the gate, we all had to make a significant buy-in.
Yeah.
Of that $45,000 for the 15% down payment, and then we made another buy-in of $6,000 for holding costs, so that was accounted for, plus closing costs. So we were about $55,000 in off the bat. We split that 3 ways. And then the way that we're attacking this is additional to that $55,000 cash injection to secure the properties. Now we have $90,400 that we have to pay to subcontractors throughout the process. So we came up with what we call a draw schedule. We have to stick to it very closely. The way that it looks is the first draw was January 30th, 2023. I put in 10,000, Chip put in 10,000, Mason put in 10,000. Now keep in mind, Chip and I's $10,000 injections were into Great Team Wind Development, which we co-own. But for the sake of this example, we all put in 10,000. Draw 2A was March 6, 2023, a few days ago. Again, another round of 10,000. So 10,000 from me, 10,000 from Chip, 10,000 from Mason. At this point, we're in $60,000. All right, so it starts getting heavy when instead of getting paid on a monthly basis, you are paying your business. And that is some of the pain that I don't think people understand is how it feels to continually write $10,000 checks for subcontractor work. It's not fun, but it's part of the process. So draw 3 will be April 1st. That's $7,133 from me, Chip, and Mason. And then draw 4 is the cleanup draw. So the reason that the third one was only $7,100 roughly a piece was we thought that was it. So that's why it's kind of an odd number, but now we've added a draw 4. So that's the one everybody loves. So as our budget starts creeping up past $82,000 that we budgeted, everything else is in an overage, which is another draw to pay the subs. So right now, to clean everything up, we're looking at about $5,700 a piece, and it's constantly changing. So we track everything very closely. I know that's a dense explanation. If you made it this far in a home flip video, chances are you're interested in flipping a home. You want to know what goes into it. This is a little bit of insight. So Chip, I want to ask you, as the essentially contractor managing the subs, how has it been with this workflow for you while you're out there? Does it allow you to focus more on what's going on and less of this? And what would you change going forward?
Well, I think a contractor, typically their focus is in a different space, whereas I have real estate knowledge, I also have contracting knowledge, and I think they help me intertwine with the two. So for me, I would say that it's beneficial, and one thing that we do, we utilize this Excel sheet that we've created to track everything, and we have a meeting with our investor every Sunday. During that time frame, we go through the budget. I update Drake on what's been paid, what hasn't been paid, what subcontractors need to be paid. We discuss that. We align that with what we have in our current budget in terms of what's in the account, the business account that we're drawing from. And through that process, it helps everyone stay aligned. It's also important that we came up with a week-by-week timeline before we started this process of what needs to be completed. So at that point, we had an understanding of what payments needed to be made on what week, and then that's how we kind of came up with the draw schedule. So not getting too rushed, not trying to get something done too early is important as well, because we may not have the funds in the account to pay for those contractors or those items. So adhering to the timeline, making sure things are done right, making sure to challenge any quotes that I think may be high. It's important to get multiple bids. That will help you understand what the true cost for that service or that product is, because everyone's different. Everyone offers something different. Every business is different. So getting multiple bids has been useful as well, because I can use that to negotiate with the party if I need to get that down. So it all goes back to making sure that you have your stuff compiled, you have your numbers right where you need before you get into the deal. Because if you start trying to piece this together without having that information, your cost is going to increase dramatically, and you will have no understanding of where you're at in terms of your walkaway dollar by the end of the remodel itself.
For sure. I think this has been somewhat of a stress-free process.
Yeah.
so far, which is rare. I think we brought experience into the mix. Mason's a great partner, and he also has real estate experience. Despite not being a real estate agent, he's a real estate investor. So I would say thus far very smooth, very little pain. I think the draw schedule is important because if you come to me and knock on my door and say I need $33,000 today, there's going to be, at my current stage in life, there's going to be some strain associated with that mentally. That's a chunk of money, right? But then when you pair it in with what we're bringing in from the real estate sales business on a monthly basis, and you spell it out to me that I have to make $33,000 worth of payments, but I have a schedule with 4 different draw periods over 2 to 3 months, it's digestible.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, we take that experience into the next one when we bring on an investor, like, hey, this didn't all do up front. You just have to agree to the schedule, and here's the overage if we go over our budget.
Sure.
But I think next time we're gonna be able to call our budget within 3 to 5K, no problem.
Yeah, and I think that each and every time you do a flip, you get more experience. So, you know, Drake and myself, we independently did flips last year. So we brought experience into this one. This one, I would say, from my perspective, has been the easiest and most fluid that I've personally done. I'm not sure about your journey, but...
No, with the team, it helps so much because I think with one, you could probably do all this yourself with the managing and the payments and everything, but we're pressure testing if we have 2 or 3 going on.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're not gonna be able to whip out that debit card and make the payment when someone's hawking you to get paid immediately. You're not gonna be able to really take a step back and think about the wave of the cash flow in the account. That makes sense.
Yeah,
we're gonna be dealing with multiple investors.
Exactly, and you're in the field. You don't have to be dealing with that.
Exactly, it's 2 different roles.
Yeah.
And it's not with one, but it will be at 2 or 3. And it also helps us from a professional standpoint, like we say in our sales business, which is funny how it translates. You don't want one voice the whole time if you're an investor. You're not. It's impossible for one investor to work with only you and like you by the end of it, because it's just constant communication. But if I can come in and also talk with the investors and talk about the line items and view it more from a financial standpoint, and you can view it more from the creative, here's what they're doing, here's what they're seeing, here's what changed standpoint, then I think they're gonna be happier when they walk away, which will lead to more business.
Yeah.
And more opportunities, so.
And I think it's important to also state that it's better to start thinking about scaling before you start scaling. Because if you start scaling without any thought, it's gonna be very difficult. So Drake alluded to it, we're trying to figure out what processes work. So when we do scale this and we're managing 3 to 4 remodels at a time, right now it's easy because we're just doing 1. That's digestible. We can facilitate that and not interrupt our sales business in real estate. But when you're doing 3 to 4 and you're doing sales, it's gonna be important to have a process in place that you can adhere to, timelines you can adhere to, so that you're not disrupting what you're doing in terms of your 9 to 5, if you will. Now, real estate, full-time job, not 9 to 5, so it helps, but it's just important to be prepared and start thinking about scaling before you actually take that on.
Yeah, and I'm setting up a meeting for the sales business right now, but I do want to ask you, I noticed today you were out there talking to one of the subs. Looks like it was the leader of the crew.
Yep.
Trying to get him lined up and try to give him quick instructions, and as soon as we walked in the house, you were doing that. And I'm curious what you think makes somebody able to do that. So like, if you were trying to find someone to replace you to do that, what type of knowledge would they need? And would it be possible if they didn't have like years of experience to direct traffic?
I think it's important to have some general knowledge of the building process and what goes into a home. You don't need to be an expert by any means, but you do need to have general knowledge, because if you don't, you're gonna let things slip through the cracks. There are gonna be things that you wish you would have done different once you're actually done with the remodel. It's gonna help you with understanding price points for quotes and bids that you receive from subcontractors. You'll have a better understanding of the timeline. So it's just important, if you're going into this and you're acting as a contractor, to have some experience. You don't need to be a full-time flipper. You don't need to be a full-time contractor, but you do need to understand the aspects of what makes a home. Because if you do, let's say you start immediately doing drywall repairs as soon as you get done with the demo. Well, you forgot to do the rough-in work of the electrical and plumbing. So you have to go back and take out all the drywall in order to do that. So it's just important to know the steps, know what to look for, know what items are important to replace and correct, and what items may not have, you know, the most focus. But in this day of age, you can do a YouTube video like we're doing today. You can lean on mentors, you can lean on experts in this industry that can give you insight and direction that will help you be able to do it. Nothing's impossible in this day of age with all the information. And we hope what we shared today impacts you and helps you if you're looking to possibly flip a property, update your current home, or maybe looking to get into the contracting world.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining. We've been enjoying this video as well as the last one with the longer format where we can just talk. And I think the longer you're on camera, the easier it is to just have a conversation instead of acting scripted. So this is a little bit of insight into what goes on. But yeah, that's it, guys. I think we're going to continue to be able to share value, and hopefully in the next video we're about done and we can show some before and after photos. So
yeah, so we started this process on the 20th of January. Took a week to get permit, so we've only been doing this for about a month and a week. So at this point, demo's done. We're really starting to put it back together, and our timeline for completion is the middle part of April. So the next video we bring to you, hopefully we're at the end or near the end, and we're excited to share all the work that we've been doing behind the scenes.
Right on. So you guys met Chip earlier out at the property, and in the last video, I'm Drake. YouTube channel is Running Real Estate. Thank you guys for joining on our real estate investing journey. We will be back soon with another video to show you the completed Loxley Avenue flip.